Hello, family. We're still in Colossians in chapter 4 today. We finished up 3 yesterday. So Colossians chapter 4, today we're going to talk about prayer. And I want to read to you Colossians 4, 1 through 4, and we'll do that today. And then tomorrow we'll look at the next couple of verses. After that, Colossians goes into a series of Paul naming names of people he knew in the city of Colossae and thanking them and greeting them and exhorting them. So we're not going to do much in there. We're going to just spend 2 more days in Colossians. So today, chapter 4, verse 2 through 4. I'm just going to read it to you, then we'll come back and talk about it. Paul says this: continue steadfastly in prayer. Be watchful in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray also for us, that God may open to us a door for the word, to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison, that I may make it clear which is how I ought to speak. So Paul is exhorting his readers to prayer, but also asking for a prayer request. So let's go back to verse 2. Continue steadfastly in prayer. Or as other translations say, be devoted to prayer. This is the concept of not just a minor commitment to prayer when I need something or at my meals, but this is a concept of a life that is devoted to prayer, which requires us to believe that God actually answers prayer. That my prayers and your prayers move the hand of God. So that's the first thing I want you to think about. Be devoted to it. Steadfastly continue in it. Second, be watchful in it. The word watchful there, other translations say be alert in it. This is the same word Jesus used in the Garden of Gethsemane when he took Peter, James, and John. He pulled them aside and he told them that his heart was full of anguish, even to the point of death. And he said, please, be in prayer with me. Be watchful. Be on guard with me in prayer. It's the same word here. And what did Peter, James, and John do? Jesus came back an hour later. They were sleeping. He said, couldn't you keep guard for 1 hour? Couldn't you be watchful for 1 hour? And the famous saying, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Be careful you don't go into temptation here. So when he tells us to be alert and to be watchful, I think there's 2 things he's addressing, Paul is. First is, I can be lazy. I can easily let my mind drift. Be alert. Pay attention in your prayer life. And don't allow it to be sidetracked. The second one is spiritual warfare. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. If we're not careful, Satan can definitely bring in lies into our prayer time. He can tell us a lie that God doesn't answer your prayers. God isn't listening. Why do you think you can move the hand of God? When the truth is, God tells us to pray. He exhorts us to come to him with our requests. Bring all our requests before him. Our prayers can move the hand of God. But sometimes it's this matter of being alert in it, being watchful and being diligent in coming to God in our prayer time. And then the last word here is with thanksgiving or with gratitude. This is the 4th time in the last 10 verses Paul has mentioned a life of gratitude. At the heart of being a Christian, at the foundation of the Christian life, is gratefulness. Are you and I grateful? Think of your prayer life. Does your prayer life reflect a grateful heart or a heart that wants more? So I truly believe this. At the heart of the Christian faith, at the foundation of the Christian faith, is humility and gratitude. It even says in Romans chapter 1, when the wrath of God is coming against wicked men, one of the reasons it's coming against them is because they knew who he was, but they were not grateful. Big thing. Are you a grateful person? Am I a grateful person? Paul goes on in verse 3. At the same time, while you're being alert and diligent in your prayer, at the same time, pray also for us that God may open to us a door for the word to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am in prison. This is an amazing statement on Paul's behalf. Paul's in jail. He hasn't got a whole lot of people to talk to. He does mention that the guards, he talks to them. Maybe he gets visitors that come in, but for the most part, Paul is not free to go out and proclaim Christ. People have to come to him. But his prayer is still, pray that I may have an open door to preach the gospel. So once again, are the role of our prayers in evangelism? It's funny, I never see an example. I only see one example of clearly saying, pray for so-and-so to get saved. That's in Romans 10, I believe it is, where Paul prays that the Jews would get saved. The general principle of prayer and evangelism is pray, 1, that God sends people to talk to people. I do that all the time for my relatives. It's very hard to talk to my relatives. But God sends someone else to talk to my family members about Jesus. They might listen to them. I'm the little brother. They don't listen to me. Also, I think that we can pray for opportunities for people. God, give so-and-so an opportunity to share the faith. Prepare their hearts to be ready, and then give them the opportunity. That's what Paul's praying for here. Pray also for us that God may open to us a door for the word. And what is the word? To declare the mystery of Christ, which is why Paul was imprisoned. So we need to pray for each other. Both we pray for people who aren't saved. We pray for people to be sent to those unsaved friends and loved ones. And we pray for opportunities for each other to have a chance to share the gospel. Prayer is very important in evangelism. And so the idea of prayer, grateful, watchful, being on the alert, pray for the heart of evangelism in each one of us, and opportunities to pray. And it doesn't say it here, but my practice is to pray, God, send someone to my loved ones. I pull that out of Matthew 9 when Jesus says, look unto the harvest. It is white unto harvest. Pray to the Lord of the harvest to send workers into the harvest. God, send workers to my family. That's my prayer all the time. So Cornerstone, it's been great. We'll talk tomorrow, our last daily devotional in Colossians. We'll be in chapter 4, doing verses 5 and 6 tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.